Hey, this is Rob Anspach, and welcome back to another edition of E-Heroes for those keeping count. This is episode 381, and my next guest was supposed to be here years ago, and something happened, and I've been trying to get her back. And this is great because we're going to talk about showing up real. And I know that's, a lot of people have struggled with that. Do I use my own personality when I get on social or even talk to people? Do I try to be politically correct? Do I, act like someone else? And my next guest, Nina Amir, is just great. I mean, her books reflect this. She's going to talk about it, but we have to go through and make sure that every entrepreneur is being their true self.
We do, for sure. Thank you for having me, Rob. We should have been here like years ago. This should be like second episode or something, but it was probably me. I probably dropped the ball.
But I've talked about this before on other episodes, and one of my big pet peeves lately is entrepreneurs who are constantly rebranding themselves, like it's going to change. I've watched some of the entrepreneurs who have gone through the journey with me over the last 25 years. And I've watched them drop out. I've watched them change who they are. I've watched them, hey, I'm not a marketer anymore. I'm, a spiritual coach. Okay, that's great. I mean, I've done that whole rebranding thing because years ago I had a carpet cleaning business for 19 years. I've had this coaching company for 25 years. And people are like, well, Rob, how do you go from carpet cleaning to coaching to writing books? And so, I've had my own evolution, my own change. But here's the thing is for me, I've always been forthright and transparent with my clients. I've always said, this is my experience from way back. And I've used that experience as I've gone forward. And so I share a lot of those stories in a lot of the books that I write about. But a lot of times people don't like to talk about their past. They don't want to share it. They don't want to bring it into their present. And I think that's what makes them who they are.
I 100% agree. And if we're not showing all of who we are, then we're not being authentic. That word everyone wants to throw around, be authentic. We're not showing up fully as who we are. And I don't know that as a business person, you can attract the people you can really help the most or who want to be in your circle or follow you or whatever if you aren't showing up fully as who you are.
Right.
And, I said I was always known as the writer and author and editor and a nonfiction publishing expert. And my degree's in magazine journalism, and I've worked in publishing for a long time. But what that didn't reflect was that I've always had an interest in psychology and what makes people tick and, the woo-woo stuff and all of that. And that was what I intended to write about until somebody directed me, a literary agent, to write about kind of what I know rather than what I'm passionate about. And I had social media people tell me, stick to one lane, just talk about the personal and spiritual growth stuff if that's what you're trying to build.
Mhm.
But I would say that by sticking to one lane, I lost clients
Yeah.
and I lost business and I didn't show up as all of who I was. And then it became very hard to market,
Yeah. Yeah.
you know?
When I started on Spug Media, most of my clients were carpet cleaners because that's the industry I knew. But, as I started, getting known on social media and everywhere else, I'd have lawyers reach out. I'd have doctors reach out, and they wanted their marketing helped. And so I was finding that I was making more money helping them than I was helping carpet cleaners. And even though I was writing for a cleaning magazine and I was doing all this stuff that everybody tells you to do, like you were doing, I thought, you know what? I'd rather be in the other lane where I'm making more money, where I'm helping more people. And so I started gravitating towards bigger clients, ones that were going to give me more money and make my agency shine a little bit brighter. And it was funny because just about last year, and this was after about a 10-year hiatus of not writing for this cleaning magazine, they asked me to come back. And I thought, well, I don't really have any cleaning clients anymore. But, it's when you love to write, it doesn't matter. So I wrote a whole bunch of articles for them, and they're spacing them out over the next year, and they love it. And, whether I help carpet cleaners or not, they can still buy my books. They can still, listen to the podcast and learn. But, it's, I think it's everybody has to figure out what they want out of their own business.
So it's interesting. So when I decided to focus on the personal and spiritual growth aspect of what I wanted to be doing, I created a membership program called the Inspired Creator Community. And I was only marketing to people interested in personal and spiritual growth. And it was a struggle to get anyone in the door. And so then I thought, I have this big list of nonfiction writers. Why am I not marketing to them? They need personal growth just as much as anyone else, maybe more. They're
Hmm.
procrastinating and avoiding, and they don't want to do the things they need to do. They're not writing, even though they say they want to be writers. And so I wrote specific emails to the writers, and I said, this is not a program for writers specifically.
Hmm.
But writers need this program because if you're not writing and you're afraid and you're overwhelmed and all those things, this program is going to help you.
Hmm.
More often than not, that program, when I run it, is filled with probably 90% writers.
Wow. Yeah,
And that's, you're cutting off your nose to spite your face, aren't you? When you just say, I'm not going to market to these people. And I
mhm,
had a whole period where, like I said, I wanted to build an author platform and, um, for books about personal and spiritual growth. Plus, I had this program. And so I didn't talk about writing.
mhm,
And yet, that's who I am at my core as a writer. Like, that's
right,
my gift is
mhm,
writing. And, yeah, I think it's just so silly that we think that we can't combine it. And I didn't want to. For a while, I didn't want to combine them. And
mhm,
now I'm at the point where, I'm going to redo my homepage and make sure that it's clear that I do both. And then I have another program called the Nonfiction Writers University. And in there, I never talked about personal growth. At one point, I sold people, like I sold them
mhm,
on personal growth, actually on high performance coaching. And it was a group high performance coaching thing. Like we called it the Masters program. And it worked for a while, but then I just went back to this is just about writing and publishing nonfiction. And now I'm like, no, that is a mistake because look at all those people who are in my other program.
mhm,
And you can stair step it, right? So they join just for the nonfiction writing and publishing, and then they, and the coaching there, and then they, maybe they upgrade because now I'm giving them some other options that have something to do with personal growth. And then I can actually upsell them into my inspired creator community.
mhm.
So, yeah, why didn't I think about that years ago?
It's and sometimes I'm labeled the ADHD entrepreneur because I'm like this squirrel that's all over the place. And they're like, Rob, what is it that you actually do? You like to entertain, you like to do this, you like to do that. And I'm like, every book I have is different. I have a whole series of books called the Rob Verses where I take on the scammers and I take on the morons and the lousy customer service and I just waste their time and I take those sarcastic stories, I put them in a book and people loved them. But then I have serious books that, all about podcasting, all about legacy, all about, one of my latest is, marketing the magic, which is all about Walt Disney World. And then I have a series of books called the Can Go to Hell series, which sounds provocative, but it's debt collectors can go to hell, HOA boards can go to hell, IRS can go to hell, and slumlords can go to hell. And they're more consumer advocacy books where people can buy them and learn how to get out of the situation that they're in. And I always get inspired differently. What is my next book going to be? What do I want to be known for? And when I had the cleaning business, it was a local operation, and everybody knew me. Oh, you're the rug guy. Okay, great. I don't want to be the rug guy forever. This hurts. I'm getting old. My kids don't want to take over. And the person I sold it to, after me building it up for 19 years, tanked it in 6 months.
Hmm. That's too bad.
And it was heartbreaking, but I knew that I wanted something more. And
Right.
then and I had this consulting business, and I was running them both at the same time. And I thought, I got to get rid of one. But I love teaching. I love writing. I love helping people. And I hurt every single day cleaning carpet. So that one was the choice. But I share those stories because they're real stories. They help people. They're relatable.
Hmm.
Entrepreneurs are always in the trenches. They're always fighting, with their clients. And my books help them understand what it is they need to do. And
Right.
whether or not they listen, that's up to them. But I hope that they take the information and then make it something of their own. You don't have to
Right.
copy everybody's marketing, but you can use it as, you know, an influence to inspire yourself.
Hmm. Right.
But a lot of people just copy and they say, "Oh, Rob, it doesn't work for me."
Every book's different. Every person's different. I love what you said about, or I can relate to what you said about people not knowing what you do because you do so much.
Hmm.
And that was the criticism I got all the time. You do too much. Nobody knows what you do. That's why you have to stick to one lane. It's like you're a multiple personality, and we just can't figure out who you really are and what you do. And that was why I pared it all down.
Hmm.
But I traditionally publish and I self-publish, so I do both. And from a traditional publishing standpoint, I've had to find a way to kind of cross over. So I have a literary agent who's working on selling a book that's purely personal growth. It's all about the stories we tell that hold us back and
Hmm.
how to create new stories, better stories. But even though that one has writing involved in it, it's not a book for writers.
Hmm.
But this book that I just published, Change the World One Book at a Time, Make a Positive and Meaningful Difference with Your Words, that to me is a crossover book because it's about change,
Hmm.
right? And that's what I work with my clients as a high performance coach and a transformational coach. I work with them on change, on who they're being and how to become someone who takes the actions that creates what matters to them.
Hmm.
But I also work with writers,
Hmm.
right? So, I'm coaching writers, and that book is my first step towards combining
Hmm.
everything I do in one place. There's an entire chapter. It could have been a book, Rob. Oh my God. It was so long, this chapter. And I was like, that can't happen. It was like 16,000 words. I was like, no, this chapter needs to be closer to seven, maybe, like less than half. And, but I got so excited about the fact that I was teaching writers how to change,
Hmm.
to look at how they change, to look at how other people change, because you can't write for change. Like you can't write a book that's meant to inspire and motivate people to do something different if you don't understand how to get them to do that,
Hmm.
right? So that was probably the most fun I had was writing that chapter. The rest of it was just the same stuff about writing and publishing, except focused on activists and transformational writers, people who want to make a difference in the world. And so that was nice because I'm interested in that. But really, this was a crossover for me because I got to write about the two things I love most,
Hmm.
right? And people will maybe begin to understand who I am from
Hmm.
that book.
One of the things that I run into a lot with my clients when they want to write a book, they want to have all their stories, everything they've ever done, condensed into 200 pages. And, and I have to go through and I'm like, look, pick 10 stories and then finish it. You can always do a second book or a third book, but you don't need all your, and they argue, oh, this story happened because of this story. Eliminate. It's like
Right.
watching a movie. Let's just pick Star Wars. Then they always, have like when you used to have DVDs, they don't have them anymore. They used to have, all the bloopers or all the extra stuff in the back, all the scenes that they cut out. That was all extra. And I said, look, if you want to put all these extras, you can always put them as a blog post where people come to your
Right.
website and read about it after they bought the book. And but no, that's the constant argument that I have with people. You make your books entertaining, but you don't need every single detail in there.
Right. You can always provide bonus material.
Yeah, yeah. It's just that is the one I think biggest complaint I have dealing with clients. It's like, okay, yeah, the story is interesting, but is it interesting to a point where a reader's gonna hang in there, or is they gonna flip to the next? So, we
Right.
have to we have to guide them in a way that makes them feel good about the book, but in a way that eliminates some of the fluff.
Right. Yeah.
Yeah.
Well, I've been I was going to say accused, but my editing style is, gloves off, dive in, roll up your sleeves. You asked me to fix your book. You didn't ask me to tell you how great it is. You asked me to make it better. And
Hmm.
so, yeah, but I've had writers come to me and say, "Do you have anything nice to say?" I said, "Well, you didn't hire me to tell you. Like, if it was wonderful, I would tell you it was wonderful and you don't need me.
Hmm.
But if it's not wonderful, I'm going to tell you what you have to fix so that you can actually sell copies,
Yeah.
right?"
Yeah. And
So,
it's I tell people too, Amazon is great, but if you're going to be speaking on stage, if you're going to go to conventions, you'll have better luck selling your books there than you will on Amazon.
yeah,
Amazon, it's like a marketer who advertises where everybody else does. You're not going to get seen until you start
right.
being unique with your approach.
Right.
And
The
so,
issue is that most writers don't want to be speakers.
yeah,
Your business people, maybe, if you're working
yeah.
with business people, they want to get out and speak and tell people about their business. But most writers, at least the ones I work with, don't want to be speakers and they'll tell you that they're introverts. And this is where my other coaching hat comes on and I say, well, let's really talk about that because I consider myself an introvert. I'm actually an ambivert. So I like being with people and I like, going to events and things like that, but I also really like being home,
Yeah.
not
Yeah,
talking to
that's
anybody.
yeah.
But
If I had a
but if you
choice,
go
I'm
around,
staying home.
that's right, that's right. But if you go around telling people I'm an introvert, then that is who you will be. And you will have the mindset and habits of an introvert. I coached a woman who's a very successful doctor with a clinic, and she wanted to get out and be on podcasts, and she wanted to be speaking at conferences, medical conferences, to share about her clinic and get other people to have similar ones or create similar ones. And she said, but I really hate going because I'm an introvert and I don't like being around all those people. And I really hate small talk. And I don't mind so much getting up on stage and speaking. Like that didn't bother her so much. It was just all the people and the small talk. And she said to me, when I go to a meeting in the hospital and I have to introduce myself, I introduce myself as an introvert. And I said, how's that working for you? Like, is that helping you do the things you want to do and accomplish the goals that you have? She says, no. So, okay, so stop saying that's who you are because every time you say I'm an introvert, your head, your brain says you're an introvert, okay, we're an introvert. So I don't like this. I'm uncomfortable. I don't want to be here. I don't want to talk to these people. I just want to go home. Is- She said, well, no, that's not what I want to have happen. So then you have to start, you don't have to say you're an extrovert, but you can begin to create an identity around I'm someone who likes to speak to people
Hmm.
or likes to be around people because what we know is that when you decide to be someone different than who you are now, which isn't inauthentic, by the way, it's just a choice you're making about how you want to grow as a person and who you want to become. So when you say, I like being around people, that's who I am. I'm someone who likes being around people. Now your mindset goes, oh, okay, I'm okay here. Like I like this. And your habits become, where do I find more opportunities to be with people?
Right.
Right. And she ended up realizing that she didn't have to have small talk with people, that she could have real conversations, and she started really liking it. And I work with this concept a lot, Rob, because you'd be amazed. You can be someone who drinks Diet Coke, and you can decide not to be someone who drinks Diet Coke. And you no longer have to ask yourself, will I have a Diet Coke? Because that's not who you are anymore.
Yeah. Well, I did the same thing, and I was tired of being heavy. And at my head, I was probably 250 at my heaviest, and I switched from Coke to Coke Zero. And everybody's like, "How do you stand the taste of that? That's nasty." I'm like, "Yeah, but I'm thinner now. I'm like 185." So you got to make
Right.
choices. Do you want to
Yeah.
continue down the road, being the same person you were? Do you want to change? What's your goal? And for me, it was, everybody says, "Oh, you got to do this laptop lifestyle," and I thought, okay, let me try that. And that's kind of the reasoning I sold the cleaning business. The first book took off. I'm like, okay, this is great. I don't need that business anymore. But everybody keeps talking about this laptop lifestyle. Take your laptop everywhere. I get on a plane with my laptop and it almost breaks because someone tries to sit their seat back, and I'm like,
Yeah.
"Ooh, this is stupid." And I changed the way I do things. I love working from home. I've been working from home for 15 years. And during COVID, people are like, "How do you stand it?" It's normal to me. So, you
Right.
know, uh, but I do get to travel, and I love traveling, but I travel light. I take a knapsack or a backpack, small thing, put some clothes in there. Um, and I look at people at the airport, and they got these huge honking pieces of luggage that's costing them $300 to get back and forth. And I'm like, why? Simplify what you do. But no, everybody wants to overcomplicate their life. And I'm like, whatever. But airports are a great place to watch people, you know,
Yes, they
from
are.
a psychology point of view. Watch what they do, watch how they think, watch how they get lost. And when you watch people for a while, you can start to think, okay, how can I help them? How can I be of use, in my own business? How can I guide people through the maze to hire me? And it makes life so much easier if you know how things work.
It does. And that's why, watching people, studying people is so important because if you don't know how they work, you're going to have a hard time um,
Adapting.
moving them in any
Yeah.
way.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. Lately though, social media has become a battleground, and anything that anybody posts lately triggers something else. And to me, I think this is why a lot of people are starting to say, I'm tired of Twitter or X. I'm tired of Facebook. Give me something where it's a little bit more tamer. I'm like, where are you going to get that? Everybody's battling each other for their voice, their noise. And it's getting worse than an airport, really. At least in an airport, the chaos is controlled. On social media, not so much.
Well, also, you're not talking to everybody at the airport,
Right.
right? I mean, everybody's doing their thing. Social media, because of the way it's set up with its algorithms and all, you have a lot of noise coming at you that is not people you want to necessarily. I mean, you may follow them, but
Mhm.
I don't know. There's just seems to be so much going on social media that it's hard to get away from it, and people get triggered.
Yeah.
And I've gotten triggered before. I just try to go on social media and do what I got to do. I mean, I have friends and stuff on Facebook, and I might engage with something that they share that's not business related or whatever. But mostly, I'm just posting what I need to post
That's right.
for my business
Yeah.
and going away. And people ask me all the time, the authors will say, because they need to build this platform, right? This built-in readership for their books. And no matter what kind of book you're writing, it's going to help you sell books when somebody's paying attention, right?
Mhm.
So, but they'll ask me, well, Nina, are you on one platform or are you on five platforms and how do you manage it?
Mhm.
And I always say, well, as an author and a business person, I want to be everywhere. But
Right.
do I want to engage everywhere and listen everywhere or pay attention everywhere? No.
Mhm.
So, I'm a little older, so I'm on Facebook and I'm on Instagram, but I'm
Mhm.
also on Pinterest. And I left X, but I didn't delete my account. So I
Mhm.
use X only for promotion,
Right.
but I'm there. So I'm on LinkedIn, Instagram, Facebook, X. When Blue Sky started taking over for X, I went to Blue Sky. I'm on, can't remember if I said Pinterest.
Yeah.
So I'm kind of everywhere, but I don't spend time everywhere.
No.
I use Buffer, the Buffer app, and I post even though they tell you not to do that, but I do it anyway because I don't even want to show up in some of the places
Right.
and look around. I just
Yeah.
want my material to go there and then to
I
go on my way.
since I make videos once a day, I post on TikTok and LinkedIn, Facebook, and YouTube, and then it gets filtered out to Threads and Instagram, and I just try to post the videos. I try not to look at the comments because people are negative in whatever way they want to be. But I will go through and if it's really bad, I'll just delete. I don't even respond,
Right,
but I don't want to engage with the noise that doesn't benefit me at all, you know.
right.
Um, it's like the other day I posted something on LinkedIn and it went super viral. And I'm like, that's never happened. There was, I think it was 375,000 impressions.
Wow.
I had all these people commenting and getting shared, and I'm like, okay, I can see what makes some of these things attractive to people who want to go viral all the time. That dopamine hit, you're like, wow, that's great, but it didn't really benefit me at all. I didn't get any sales. I didn't. So people are, oh, I'll help you make your post go viral. I don't care. It's like it didn't really do anything. I want
Right,
real conversations with real people that really resonate with me, that want to hire me because they get me, you know?
right,
And it's not to say that, hey, you have to have the same political leanings or the same religious leaning. That doesn't bother me. What do you like sarcasm? If I'm sarcastic and you say, "Well, Rob, that I'm laughing out loud," great. If you're like triggered because I said something, it's not going to work out.
so probably the
So
best thing that somebody told me had to do with email marketing, but it relates to social media and everything. And one time I was complaining, well, when I post whatever it was I was sending out by email, I lose subscribers. People unsubscribe. And they said to me, but those people are never going to buy from you anyway. So why do you care? And a lot of times it would be when I would be selling something. So I give away a lot of stuff for free, blog posts and videos and all that, lots of content going out there for free. And then if I'm in a promotion mode, I'm sending emails that are promotional, right? And there might be a lot of them for a brief amount of time. And I always get somebody who says, take me off your list. Why are you selling to me? And I'm like, do you think that I don't need to make money? Like
yeah.
that I do this I mean, I do some of it out of the goodness of my heart, but I got to make a living.
Hmm.
So if you don't like it, unsubscribe. But that's my attitude on social media too. If you don't like what I'm doing or saying, or that right now I'm promoting my new book, okay, so unfollow me.
Yeah.
I don't have an issue with it because If you're upset that I'm promoting my new book, then you're not going to buy it,
Right.
right? So, and you probably don't like what I do anyway or who I am. And I only want people who align with me
Hmm.
because that's how you are going to make money is if when you have people who are aligned with you following you on social media or on your email list or
Yeah.
wherever.
Yeah. It's so, how we show up, and we have to show up real. So, if people are gravitating towards you because of your religious stance or your political stance or your sarcastic stance, that's great. But they're showing up because they want to know you, the real
Right.
you, you know, not because, you faked a post that, whatever, it just they want to know the real you. And the thing is, and this is why I make videos every day. I want people when they see me, when they hear me, that they know who they're dealing with. So if I get up on stage, it's still the same me, you
Right.
know. I've noticed over the course of 30 years as an entrepreneur, I've gone to events, and the people that I've heard on tape, heard on podcast, heard on video, they get up on stage and they're a different person. What? Or they'll get up there and just read their PowerPoint. Well, that could have been an email. Why did I waste my time? So,
Right.
if you want to be a better entrepreneur, you have to show up real.
I 100% agree.
So
And
what's
that's,
what?
sorry, there was this trend, where originally, like I think initially with social media, people were always showing up. I'll talk about women, okay? Because I'm a woman, and this is what I noticed was women would have their, phone and they're videotaping themselves, but only when their hair is done,
Yeah.
only when their makeup is on. And I was at fault of that too, because that was what people were doing, right? And you're looking at people going, wow, I'm going to follow them because look how great they look and look how skinny they are and, whatever. And then it switched. And it was like the videos that were going viral, the posts that were going viral were of those same people potentially, but without their makeup on,
Hmm.
without their hair done, at the gym or whatever. And what was lovely about that as a woman is it gave me permission to
Hmm.
show up on social media without that.
Yeah.
And while I still like today, I did my hair and I have makeup on, but I'll be out walking the dog, and that's when I turn on my phone.
Hmm.
And I got my hat on or whatever, or my hair a ponytail or I'm sweating and I'm having a conversation with my peeps, on Instagram.
It's because it's real,
And
it's raw, it's relatable.
right. And so I was super happy when things shifted because it allows you to be real and
Mhm.
to not feel like everything has to be perfect.
Yeah. Yeah.
I had a colleague, a high performance coach who was a colleague, and he set up this whole studio for himself. And he was teaching, a group in a group setting, and we'd all show up virtually, and he had his whole studio, and you could see how it was all set up and everything, and everybody wanted to have his studio. And for a while, I tried to do that too, and then I was like, this just is too hard. Like, if you really want to show up on a consistent basis, make it easy.
Hmm.
Use your phone. Just have, go somewhere where the lighting's good. Have a decent mic, but you don't have to make it so hard. It doesn't have to be so professional. Just be you,
Yeah.
and people will respond.
Well, the other day I saw a video of someone saying, that is the worst advice ever. Don't tell someone to be themselves. Okay. And I got through like 2 seconds of it. I'm like, I can't watch the rest of it. And I guess sometimes people can be too real. Maybe they can put stuff on social that probably shouldn't be there. Talk about things
Yeah.
that maybe they're talking about their kids or maybe they're talking about their active life that's not part of being an entrepreneur. I get it. You want to be real, but sometimes being too real can get you in trouble as much as being not real. So there
Right.
is there is a you know
It's a fine line.
Yeah.
But
Yeah.
I have another colleague who she teaches something quite interesting in terms of social media for coaches and entrepreneurs, and that is that you need to take pictures like lifestyle pictures. So, like if somebody wants to hire me as a high performance coach, they're going to, you take pictures of yourself not being a high performer necessarily, but being in your kitchen and having a cup of tea, or being out for a walk, or you take pictures of your life because people resonate with that as well, because that's also all of who you are, right? So they resonate with that. And as a writer, you might take pictures of yourself writing or at your computer, or those typical, which I will probably be doing come January, opening the box of books, because that's part of the life.
Yeah.
And people want the life you have. They're not going to coach with you or hire you if they don't get a sense that you're living a life that they want to live.
Yeah. Yeah. And but I also uh take pictures of my books when I open them, even if they're reorders, even if they're, you know, more of the same. You know, uh, people just love it. I love to share pictures of people with my books, just to see how far my books have traveled. And I think the furthest is Mount Everest. Someone took a
Hmm,
picture right in front of base camp at Mount Everest, which I thought was really cool.
right.
But people have found my books in bookstores in Norway, which pretty cool too. So it just I write because I love to write, and I think that we as entrepreneurs, we as authors, this is part of our tools. These are tools that we use every single day. And what started me on this path was just sharing my stories through blogging. Before blogging was cool. I think you did the same thing. And now I look back, my Anspach Media website's got over 1,400 blogs. They're all
But mine does
searchable,
too. Right.
and I still get business from people that, hey, I discovered your blog. And I'm like, okay, which one? Oh, it talks about this. And I'm like, they haven't written about that for 10 years. They're finding me still, you
So
know.
that is one of the things that I think any online entrepreneur of any kind doesn't always understand. And that is that every time you publish a blog post, you get organic SEO. If you
Mhm.
stick to your topic, like, you know, okay, so I had the idea for blogging a book. And so it's a long story how that came about. But so I immediately started a blog called How to Blog a Book. And I
Mhm.
was like, one day this will be a book. And it didn't take any time for me to gain traction on Google because all I did was write about how to blog a book, blogging books, blogging a book, how to blog a book, blog to book deals. That's all I did. And Google got it,
Mhm.
right? And people still find that blog.
Yeah.
Writing about nonfiction was harder because nonfiction, we have memoir, we have straight nonfiction, we have magazine articles, newspapers, all kinds of things that are nonfiction writing.
Mhm.
And so that blog never took off in the same way
Right.
because there were so many different topics. But if you are a coach or an entrepreneur who has one thing, back to that one lane, and that's what you write about on your blog, that is permanent SEO.
Well,
And it's amazing.
it's funny because back in 2012, I won an award called That One Thing. And it was that one marketing piece that made my business unique. And I have the plaque over here on my wall, and I keep looking at it. Every day I'm reminded, of that one thing. But the thing is that I do more than one thing. I do a lot of things. And to go back to the SEO, I'm taking a group of entrepreneurs to Disney World in January. It's called Embrace the Magic. And I've been writing about Embrace the Magic for 6 months now. And Google, when you search entrepreneurial trips to Walt Disney World, my Embrace the Magic comes up before Disney's own Disney Institute. So
Yep.
it's if you write about something, you know, more than once, I would hope that you're going to write about it, 50 times or even post about it. Google's going to reward you. And when people go to search, guess who they're going to find? They're going to find your stuff. So, and here's the thing, not every book is successful, but having the power of a book, having a place where people can read your blogs, learn more about you, get to know you, it syncs everything up. And people are like, wow, I read your blog. I'm going to go buy your book, or I'm going to listen to your podcast, or I want to hire you to speak at my event, and,
Right.
and so everything works together.
Yeah, it's a snowball effect. I mean, that's why I got on YouTube. Somebody challenged me. Actually, Brendan Burchard challenged the high performance coaches and said, whatever amount of content you're producing, produce more. And I was
Mhm.
like, oh my God, I produce content like 5 days out of the week. So now what am I going to do? And okay, I'll do YouTube. And so now every one of my blog posts has a YouTube video that is aligned with it. And yeah, it's just, I don't know.
Well,
Everything you put out there to come back in
yeah,
terms of search engine optimization. It just keeps pushing you up
and
in
I
the
think
Google
people get
race.
overwhelmed though. I
They
think
do.
people that they look at the whole scheme of things and are like, oh my goodness, I have to do a book, I have to do a podcast, I have to do a blog, I have to do social media. When do I have time to do my own stuff? And for me, as a marketer, my main job is to market my business, to market me, to market my brand before I can even market my clients. And we always hear those stories. The cobbler's kids don't have any shoes. The carpenters, have has a house that's falling down because they're always concerned about everybody else. But it's like that saying, when you get on an airplane, in turbulence, the air mass is going to come down. Put it on your face first before you put it on someone else. Because if you try to struggle putting it on someone else, you're going to pass out. So my
Right.
marketing is always comes before everybody else's, even though they pay me to help them.
Right. I think the issue with most authors is that they write the book and then they'll say, I don't want to do the marketing.
Mhm.
Like, I just want to write. I'm a writer. I'm not a marketer. And they don't realize that the reason they wrote the book is some people will say, oh, I just had to write the book. I think writers write to be read,
Mhm.
to may have impact. That's like my new book, change the world one book at a time. I think we write these books because we want impact in the world and in the lives of our readers. But if you don't market your book, if you don't create an audience for the book, and then you don't market to that audience, nobody buys it, which means nobody reads it.
Mhm.
And you don't have the impact that you wanted when you set out to write the book to begin with.
Mhm.
And so I'm always telling people, this is part and parcel of being an author. Don't see it as something separate because publishing anyway is a business. I don't want to be in a business.
Yeah.
Like, I just
Yeah.
want to write my book and be an author. I don't want to have a business. No,
Yeah.
you just, especially if you self-publish, you just went into business as a publisher of your own work. And so now it's up to you to make sure your books make money
Yeah.
and have impact. And that only happens if you market your book.
Yeah. One
So,
of the one of the funnest books I had the privilege of helping was Boaz on Business. And my buddy Jeff Watson came up with this concept to take the Old Testament writings of Boaz and with Ruth and make them into something that's a little bit more tangible to this generation of people. And it was all about, creating multi-generational wealth in chaotic times. And he's having a blast selling that book. He goes to conventions and people buy the book, they love it, but he's also a lawyer. So you got this lawyer that's going around teaching real estate. Oh, by the way, I have this book. And a lot of people, whether they're whether they're Jewish, whether they're Christian, whether it doesn't matter. They're still buying the book. They're understanding the teachings. They're learning.
Right.
So you have this book that's helping so many people, and I loved helping them with this project because it was different than what I've been doing in the past. You know,
Mhm.
and for me, he came up, he said, Rob, I have like 30 pages. Help me with this, and we helped him expand it to about 150 pages or so, and um, he's just he's having fun selling it, and every convention he goes to, every place he has to speak to, he's selling 50 to 100 of them.
Yeah, that's great.
So
That's great.
it's
And it's amazing where we get our ideas from.
right.
Like that he took that. It reminds me of some of the books I started on early on. I turned them into just very short, what I would call booklets,
Hmm.
or at least one of them. Um, but I was like I said, I'm a woo-woo lady, so I was looking. I was raised Jewish, but I was in the New Age movement, age, and
Hmm.
so I was interested in all the metaphysical, spiritual stuff. And then when we had kids, my husband, who was not Jewish, decided that we said, "How are we going to raise our kids?" It's kind of a aside here, and we decided we'd raise them Jewish, and so that meant that he who had been Baptist, but then was interested in all the kind of woo-woo stuff with me, that he was like, well, what do we do if we're going to raise them Jewish? Then what do we do? And so we started being more Jewish,
More
even
Jewish.
though yeah. So, we went to synagogue and we took the kids to religious school and we celebrated all the holidays. Anyway, in that period of time, I would always be looking for the beliefs that I developed outside of Judaism. I was looking for them in Judaism.
Hmm.
And I would get very excited when I found them. I have one book still to write. I do have a little short booklet of it where I found a concept that I was like, oh my God, I can't believe it. How exciting. And I have a book about fear that's based on this mystical teacher in Judaism, Rabbi Nachman. And I just, every time I talk about it, I'm like, I gotta get back and finish that book because it's not for Jews, it's for anybody to
Hmm.
talk, to learn how to move through fear. And I think we can find so many great ideas just in our passions and interests that actually will serve other people, that become us writing for change,
Hmm.
writing to impact other people for the better. So I love that story. I heard you talking about that once before about that book, and I thought it's such an interesting idea.
The and my audience knows I don't like to dwell too much into religious uh, because it puts people on the spot. But that's a
Right.
great story, and I think it helps the audience understand that you can bring your religion into your stories. Because there's other people that are like you that want to know that maybe they want to be more Jewish or more Christian or more of something. And having somebody that's already gone through that now is teaching that in a book to someone else. That's powerful.
Yeah, it is. And I don't even consider myself so Jewish anymore. But yeah, it was just it's an interesting thing. So I was interested in all the metaphysical stuff, right? And then this book, the idea for it came after 9/11.
Hmm.
Everyone was in fear, right? And I was like, there's this little teaching by this Rebbe Nachman,
Hmm.
and it has been turned into a song and all kinds of things. And what it says is all of life is like a narrow bridge, and the main thing is not to fear. But when you really get into the translation, it's not the main thing is not to fear. It's the main thing is not to make yourself afraid.
Hmm.
And the making yourself afraid, my translation of all this was, or interpretation was, that the make yourself afraid is because you're focused on something you don't want to have happen,
Right.
like on a future potentiality that is not what you want, and that's causing fear. And so you have to change how you think. And in the metaphysical circles, we hear a lot about what you think about expand, what you focus on expands, what you think about, you bring about, right? So I'm like, if you focus on what you're afraid of, you're going to have more things to be afraid of, even if it's just in your head. And
Right.
so, yeah, so you take something like that, and it's not Jewish. This is just a concept that would help anyone
Yeah.
begin to change their focus from what they are afraid of to feeling more secure, right? And and that was the idea behind that. And it was to help people who were in fear. So it
Mhm.
was a book that was, I was writing for change,
Yeah,
for
well,
sure.
you should make sure that book sees the light of day.
Yes,
Even if
it
it
is
even
on
if
the
it's
list.
even if it's a download, a free download, people will love it. And
Mhm.
I have a lot of books on my website that are free downloads just because there is a cost of to produce a book. And some books I think, okay, this is great. It could be a book. It's 150 pages, people will love it. But sometimes I'd rather just give them the book to learn than try to sell them the book. And I've had more people download books. And to me, it's sometimes it's like, you know, it's either they're going to buy groceries for 20 bucks or they're going to buy my book. I'd rather have them eat. So
Right,
here's a free book. And
for
so
sure.
that has if you can't afford a book, please download a few of them off my website. But if you can, great. You know, there's
Hmm.
some for sale, there's some for download. Um, but I want to make sure that people are getting the messages out there. And for me, it's my legacy is about not necessarily leaving money behind because I don't think that's really important for a lot of people. I do want to leave behind knowledge and, helping people with their books, producing my own books. I'm leaving behind a library that people
Hmm.
can reference to improve themselves, whether it be in life, business, relationships, whatever. And that's my legacy.
So you're an author, what I would call an author of change, which is what I write about in my new book. But that would be the legacy I want to leave. And I
Mhm.
still have a lot of books to write.
Oh yeah,
But the books are that, and definitely the kind of books you're talking about are books that change the world.
yeah. And people ask me, well, don't you ever get writer's block? I've never gotten writer's block ever. There is always something to write about.
Well, writer's block is all about fear.
Yeah.
It's not a real thing. I mean, we give it a name and we make it this horrible thing. I have writer's block, like it's a disease, but it's just when you sit at the computer and you focus on I could be criticized, or I don't think I have anything worth saying, or and so then we don't write. It's not a block, except that we're in our brain making it one, but it's related to fear.
Yeah. So how do people find you? Where do they go?
The best place is just to go to ninaamir.com. So NINAAMIR.com. You can find all my other websites and blogs there, all the different things I do. You can find there's a big banner with my new book, Change the World One Book at a Time. So that'd be the main place to go.
And that'll be on Amazon, or they buy that directly from you.
No, it's on Amazon. It's bookshop, bookshop.org, Barnes and Noble, all the major booksellers. And it's not a self-published book. It's a traditionally published book by a lovely publisher called Books That Save Lives.
There you go. And I want to thank you. I want to thank everybody that's listening. And please go to ninaamir.com and learn about Nina and buy her new book. And we'll see you guys on the next episode.
Thanks so
Adios.
much for having me.